So wish you all a very good morning. I do hope and wish you're all doing fine and keeping yourselves healthy and safe during this pandemic times of COVID-19. My name is Sanjay Goswami and I'm the Director of Sales for South Asia for EBSCO India. We thank you for taking out time again this morning to join for the second webinar series of this 5 webinar series launched by EBSCO India, in which we have invited some of the eminent speakers of our country in the library and information science space. I'm sure that during this period of complete lockdown, each one of us has got an opportunity to introspect and think deeply, whether you are from library information science space or faculty or students. You all must be thinking what an ideal library looks like and what more innovations can you bring about once you are back to your institutions to make sure that its learning spaces look more user friendly for a better learning experience. To share similar insights in this topic, we have a invited special guest speaker whose name is Mr. Girdhar Kunkur. He is the head of the Library Resource Center at BITS Pilani. He has been invited as a speaker in various national and international conferences and workshops. He has spent over 24 years of his career at the British Council Libraries in India in various capacities. Uh, Under his leadership, BITS Pilani Library has received Wiley's Digital Transformed Academic Library 2019 award. That's the latest one to his many awards in his kitty. This was under the non-government category. He also headed the Learning Resource Center at Wellington Institute of Management, Development and Research, Mumbai, and was instrumental in revamping and redesigning the library to go with modern trends. So I'm not going too much detail into his long credentials, but just to give you a brief heads up on his profile and background. So today he'll be sharing his expert opinion on creating greater user experience for academic libraries. And before he starts, before I welcome Dr. Kunkur on the panel on to speak on the topic, we would like to just mention that please use Q&A section of your, on the right hand side of your screen to post your questions and not in the chat. So we will otherwise lose your questions in the chat. So Q&A section used for your questions, and we will take the questions in the end so that the speaker's flow is not disturbed and everyone else who's listening carefully is not getting disturbed with the questions in between. We will take all the questions in the end, and so I now request Mr. Giridhar Kunkar, sir, to take over from me and share his insights on this wonderful topic, creating greater user experience for academic libraries. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. I hope I am audible to all of you. First of all, I'd like to thank EBSCO for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts during this webinar, especially when we are all confined to our homes, wondering how best we can be productive, during this unprecedented COVID-19 situation. The working for all of us, though, has become very, very different for all of us, being virtual, Zooming, Skyping, Googling, WebExing, and whatnot, and our laptops and smartphones have become the office on the go and things like that. And nevertheless, we need to face this situation bravely and look forward to a better future soon and start working in our respective libraries. The topic that is given to me, as mentioned to you by Sanjay, is creating greater user experiences in academic libraries. A case study of BITS Pilani Library. Before I proceed, I would like to make one thing very clear, that when we talk about user experiences, we can broadly classify that into two categories. One, with regard to physical entity, that means I'm referring to the library building, the interior, the layout, design, infrastructure, the collection, the people and their interaction with the people, and things like that. I'm talking about that physical part of user experience. The other one is the experiences with regard to the digital content of the library, like how we have made available our digital content through various platforms, library websites or portals and things like that. How seamless is the access and the kind of navigation processes that we have put in place, and how easy it is for them to access quickly what they are looking for. So these are two broad categories, and I do not want to consciously touch upon the digital library or digital aspect of his, the user experience, because there is so much of talk, so much of deliberation, seminars, conferences, nowadays webinar that is happening on this particular area. So I will certainly focus on the physical aspect of the user experience. So I will spend about 1 hour on this particular topic, and later on maybe we will spend some time on question and answer. To give more clarity on the topic, that user experience, I want to take you through a definition. The user experience, UX, is the totality of end users' perception as they interact with a product or service. These perceptions include effectiveness, which means how good is the result, efficiency of the library, you can say, that is how fast it is, emotional satisfaction of the users, that means how good does it feel to them, and the quality of the relationship with the entity that created the product or service, which means what expectations does it create for subsequent interactions with the users and things like that. So I think this definition really fits very well in a library context, and it is defined by Mike Kuniowski. And there are various factors that influence user experiences, and let me take you through some of them. In the last over 20 years, the user experience has increased in importance for academic library. And the recognized factors of user experiences are how useful is the library from the user's point of view, which means users do come to the library with a particular purpose, be it for serious reading or research, and the reading for personal or academic growth, or to have some kind of academic interaction, to have collaboration with some people, or to do brainstorming, group discussion, things like that, and or to use some spaces or just to hang out. Okay. And another factor is how usable is the library from the library point of view, which means users should be able to achieve their objectives when they visit the library. For instance, if a student is visiting to the library to check out books, then how usable our circulation processes are, and how they check out books in the library. Is there a self-checkout system? Users may like to use other spaces like the discussion rooms, study carrels. They want to access online resources, or may like to have tea, coffee, etc. And the other aspect is the desirability, which means the overall presentation of our libraries, how well we have presented our library to the users, the kind of displays that we have put up to create awareness and things like that, and the seating arrangements, how comfortable they are, and is environment clean and attractive enough for them, and are our staff members are very well informed and helpful to the users, and whether we have put the necessary IT infrastructure in place or not. And then the next factor is findability, whether users are able to find what they are trying to locate in the library without any help. Have we ensured the necessary directions, instructions which are concise and clear to them? And accessibility of the library, which means are there any obstacles? Make sure that everything is wheelchair accessible, have clear path for fire drills and other emergencies. And for instance, do not place books too high or too low for access. These are just a few points here. The last one is how credible is the library, which means when students enter the library, they need to trust us, the librarians. They need freedom to read and do other academic activities, research, innovative work, and they should feel that their privacy is respected. We should not be interfering into their activities actually. Now, let us look at the library space planning that has been happening in the past and which is continued even in the present days to a certain extent. Okay, so the previous generation of the library planners, they enjoyed a kind of, I should say, good old days. And as you all will agree that for decades, the library space planning was predominantly driven by the concern for printed material. The storage came first and then followed by other space intensive, the print related needs of the library, such as acquisition. I'm referring to even the storage, shelving, and stacking of the books. Even now, also, this is a pretty important aspect of our libraries. And imagine the cataloging work that our previous librarians used to do. It was a Herculean task, be it the preparing of catalog cards like author, title, subject catalog cards and classified cards, so on and so forth. And all these catalog cabinets used to occupy a lot of space right at the entrance in the lobby of the library and in many places of the library. It was again a major job. And then the various processes like book processing unit doing classification, cataloging, book processing, so on and so forth. They also occupied a huge amount of space in the library. And then, of course, the circulation system, which is obviously a significant one, even now also in many, unless some libraries have gone for self-issue, self-return kiosks and things like that. So the the library design, responded by becoming increasingly industrial in their approach. And that time, what I should say, the efficiency in print management was the standard for the success. Okay. So from the start of 20th century right through mid 1990s, the main purpose of the library was, the curation of their collection. And this role of the library was so significant that, the reputation of the institution was measured in terms of its size, and, breadth and depth of its library collection. And however, this is no longer the true representation of present-day libraries. Okay, the things have changed significantly, and the collection is of course important, but is not some of the library. And when I talk about collection, let me also quickly tell you about our collection. Our collection consists of more than 250,000 books. And we still subscribe to about 108 print journals, and we have subscribed to 36 online databases through which we have access to more than 50,000 online journals and things like that. And all these content, digital content, we have made it easily accessible and quickly, we have implemented the federated search engine. I'm referring to EBSCO's discovery tool, through which the users get very relevant articles or information, whatever they want when they conduct research. Now, the rapid decline in the print in the last over 20-25 years has taken all of us, the librarians, by surprise. And in the present day, the libraries are challenged to design the spaces to support users, which require awareness of a whole set of new variables, be it pedagogical and learning styles, current and emerging new technologies, or cultural expectations of the users, and of course, the requirement of enhancing the user experience. And in order to achieve this, the libraries are constantly redefining themselves. Now, the problem with the librarians is that while they are flexible with the programs, service delivery, and the setting up of digital library, or even providing reference service, etc., etc. It is not really very much easy, or they cannot really change the physical environment in which they are currently working efficiently or effectively. It is mainly because it requires a lot of effort to convince the authorities and decision makers in the academic libraries. To overcome this difficulty, we must actually undertake activities with minimal investment of resources in order to get approval from the authorities. And for this, the librarians must design services and spaces in the library to ensure that it enhances user experiences and engages the entire user community. Now, for this, to achieve this, we cannot just focus only on the academic support, but must engage our users, what they think, what they feel, and the meaning that they construct in their lives. I must tell you that the user experience of physical spaces is very, very important, as they view such facilities as crucial for their academic, research, and project related activities. And of late, the academic libraries are becoming, the sandboxes and central hub for the students, and to collaborate and foster innovation and stay relevant. And there are many opportunities that trigger for all of us in the they trigger innovation in the library for all of us only if we are receptive to that. For that, we need to really think out of the box in order to bring such changes in the library. We need to focus intently to provide spaces for experimentation, innovation, research, education, recreation, relaxation, provision of even the stationery shopping in the library, and also to have tea, coffee, snacks. And I'm sure at least some of these may sound a bit absurd for many libraries or librarians, but I'm telling you from my experience, friends, that this is not difficult at all. The only thing is the way in which we, the librarians, perceive and interact with our users is the key determinant of a library success. Okay. In all these points, that whatever I shared with you so far, there is one word that is one thing that is coming as a very prominent and significant, that is collaboration. So libraries got to be more than just information repositories. Okay. Then why collaboration for learning? Why collaboration is necessary for the learning? Collaboration is an approach that encourages students to create groups and work together to solve a given problem. Okay, so there are several benefits that users get when they work in a group setting, especially when such spaces allow flexible use and arrangement of furniture along with the necessary technology to encourage active learning. And when we talk about active learning, and the students benefit, what are those? They, when they are working in a collaborative manner, it enhances their social and problem solving skills, and they learn from their peers, and it builds their confidence, and it inspires their critical thinking capabilities, as well as it helps in their development of self management. When we look at all these benefits, ultimately it leads to a higher level of user experience in the library. Now, there are so many places or spaces wherever we are working, whether it is any university or a college or an institution. There are so many spaces or places where they can collaborate. Like, for example, they can have their collaboration in their laboratories or in the classroom, or maybe in a central student centers like student activity centers, or it could be in an open ground. But why libraries for collaboration and learning? Friends, we hear a lot for last over a decade that there is a decline in the library usage, and we are actually experiencing this in many libraries. And that has set alarm bells ringing in the minds of the librarians. And we cannot afford to continue with this kind of a situation, and we have to face this issue in order to reinvigorate our libraries, and we must take the necessary precautions to and actions to exploit the potential of the academic libraries and make them as critical resource for all. Otherwise, we will be heading towards a very grim situation in our profession, I must say. So learning does not necessarily mean reading books alone. Okay, there are various different types of learning that nowadays the younger generation is going through. As you all know, in your colleges or universities or in our institution, the students they are also pursuing their online educational courses besides what they are doing here, and they would like to participate in talks, they want to participate in deliberations, academic interactions, they want to use audiovisual resources, they want to use some interesting spaces like makerspace, for example. And all these are different methods that appeal to a variety of learning forms. And it is our job to learn from our users what they expect from our libraries. And with this preamble, and for the last almost very close to 2 years, we have been organizing a good number of interactive sessions with our users in the library to get or elicit what exactly they look forward to in the library. So I would like to share with you some of these, interactions sessions that we have had in the last 1 or 2 years. For example, we had a very interesting brainstorm involving faculty members, research scholars, and students on the topic, the things that make me happy in the library. And it was chaired by the director of BITS Pilani. We organized this to celebrate the World Book and Copyright Day. And the another interesting activity that we conducted was an interesting idea meet with the students on the topic creating inspiring spaces in the library. We had a very good deliberation with them to understand what kind of inspiring spaces they are looking at in the library. That was to celebrate the activities day. And yet another very interesting activity that we undertook was, we made 150 students visiting the library in one go, led by one of the senior faculty members of Humanities and Social Science Department. And the task that was given to them was the mind mapping of the library, which means every single student was supposed to visit the nook and corner of the library with their open mind, open eyes, and figure out what is missing in the library, what should be there in the library according to their perception. All right. And each student was given a small slip of paper, and in that paper they were supposed to write just one, or they were supposed to recommend just one thing about the library which is not there according to them, one suggestion. So it was an activity that lasted for just about 1 hour. In 1 hour we got 150 recommendations, suggestions from students, and we prepared a big Excel sheet out of that, and we categorized all those suggestions in different areas, and many of them were achievable, some of them were really out of box thinking and not so easily achievable, and some could be achieved in the time, over the period of time and things like that. But it really gave us a very good insight into the minds of these students, what they really aspire or expect from the library. It was a very interesting activity, and we still visit that particular Excel sheet fairly frequently to see which one is the next for us to take action on. So it is helping us in the continuous improvement process in the library. And another interesting activity that we took was we had a brainstorm session involving only faculty members on the topic creating collaborative spaces in the library to foster innovation. This time the focus was how we can engage students to carry out innovative activities in the library. Okay, how can we make library as an innovative center? So we had a very long discussion with faculty members. Now, why faculty we involved and why not students? Because we wanted to involve the faculty members as a part of innovative work of the students in the library so that they get support from the faculty at the same time. So we wanted to get their perspective, how students can do innovative work in the library. And this session was also chaired by the director of BITS Pilani. Now, why did we involve director in such deliberations? Earlier I mentioned about many a times it is really difficult for we librarians to convince the authorities to get approval to change the physical environment, physical spaces in the library, and we have to do a lot of hard work to convince the authorities. When we invite the authorities themselves in participating in such deliberations, they hear directly from the users, they hear from the faculty, they hear from the research scholars, they hear from students. So when we put up the proposal, it is not a big real task for us to convince the authorities because they have already heard it from the users. And in my experience in this particular library for the last over 6 years, I do not recall even a single case where there was a major problem in implementing a new thing in this library. So that has really helped us to a greater extent. And also, we keep monitoring how users are experiencing the library services through our personal interactions with them, and we have a very robust feedback system as a part of our library portal. Okay, so the portal gives them allows our users to give feedback about what they want to share with us. I don't know whether are you able to see this? I am sharing this with you. Okay, Sanjay, are you able to see this?
Yes, yes, it is visible.
Okay. So what I'm saying is this is a online survey which is designed by us, and most of these questions are centered around user experiences only. Okay, so for example, overall, how satisfied are you with the library and its experience? And and another question, for example, how does library not meet your expectations? And things like that. So most of these questions are centered around user expectation. All right. Based on, as a result of all these interactions and based on the feedback, we realize that our users actually prefer inspiring spaces to participate in many collaborative activities in the library. And as an outcome, we were able to rethink about existing spaces which were really not used so very well in the library, and we converted them into collaborative spaces. Now, I will actually take you through some of the spaces, how we managed to change them, how we managed to convert them into collaborative spaces. This one, as you can see here, is a space that is there on the first floor of the library. And we used to use this space primarily for storing our audio-visual resources. And the size of this room is just about 20 feet by 40 feet. And very frankly, this was not really used very much by anybody. We used to hold our library committee meeting, library staff meeting, and once in a while students used to come and request for this particular space to hold some activities for them. So we thought, why cannot we convert this into a collaborative space? And we wanted to make it a flexible space so that it could be used like a classroom or a roundtable meeting room and things like that. And we spent a great deal of time in conceptualizing how best this could be made attractive so that the students use it for various activities. All right. And we also wanted to bring in a lot of technology here, like, introducing, Wi-Fi and, the automated screen, LED, LED monitor, LEDs, projector, and, sound system, microphone, collar mic. And interestingly, this particular room has got a very nice balcony attached to it. There is a pretty big balcony. And we also thought, well, okay, we will allow users to use the balcony during the break. If they are holding a seminar, they can have 15, 20 minutes tea, coffee break there. So all these things we took into consideration. We also worked on the aesthetics, look and feel of the room. And we finally, converted this room into a brainstorm room. This is what you see. And, this room, which was once a dormant space, has now become a vibrant space. Just to share with you certain statistics, you know, uh, uh, you know, 2 years prior to the renovation of this room, it was used for maybe just about 800 staff and students, including us. Okay, I'm talking about 2 years. But after renovating it, this brainstorm room was used by 20,000 students in the last 2 years. I'm not exaggerating. I will take you through the statistics. And it was used for various activities like workshop, webinar, video screening, presentation, blah, blah, blah. You can see for interviews, group discussion, and many other activities. I will, how come 20,000 students? Okay. So I will take you to this thing, the statistics. Okay, so this is our library portal. I hope you are able to see it, Sanjay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right now, the thing is, this is a library administrator's dashboard. I'm not taking you through the nitty gritties of the library portal, how I get into this and all that because of the time constraint, but I'm straight away taking you to the landing page of an administrator's dashboard backend. And here on the left hand side, you will see brainstorm room booking. All right. So when I click there, okay. I think I need to log in again. Okay, just give me a minute. I have to show you this. I am logging in as an administrator again. Okay, so hopefully it should open now. Brainstorm room. Here. Now, this is the complete list of bookings that you can see here. It is almost equivalent to an endless list of the people, students who have booked it so many times during the last year. Okay, it's a huge list. And just to take you an example of how a particular booking is made by the students, I will very quickly take you through that. I will quickly show you backend how it looks when they do the booking. When you click, so this Ayushman has booked this particular space for holding a English Press Club meeting. For it was a workshop. It was attended by 25 people, and it was held between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the library. It was roundtable meeting. So this room is heavily booked. Continuously. Continuously. Right. So I'll move on to the next story. So this is another place of the library. This is, as you can figure out, this is a bound volume section of the library. It has got 14 rows, as you can see here, and after the table, this side on the left hand side also you will find similar number of shells. Now, what happened was about I'll tell you the exact date. On 11th of September 2018, while some of our the faculty, some of our support staff, they were creating some space on the front, the shelf, in order to accommodate newly bound, the journals, bound volumes here in the first, the shelf. While doing so, when they removed some of the shelves because of the weakness of the shelf and the heaviness of the bound volumes, somehow it lost its balance and it fell on the other side. So as a result, what happened was it had a cascading effect, resulting into the fall of all 14 rows of shells that you can see right at the end, and this is how it looked. So it was a very unfortunate incident that happened, and unfortunately, no one was hurt during this interview. No one was there in between the shells. But it really took us about 20 days to put these shells back on their feet. Fortunately, the bound volumes were not really damaged so much, but there was so much to learn from this incident too, for the entire team of the library. But then we looked at this misfortune as an opportunity. So what we did was we reworked on the layout and the space in the hall and decided to create some space by removing some of these shelves to another section. So we managed to shift quite a lot of shelves from the front row, and we created quite a lot of space there. And the library did not really have an exclusive space for research scholars and faculty members to carry out their serious research related work in the library. They used to use the library anywhere, just like any other student. So what we decided, why not we create a very nice air conditioned room with a better ambience and flexible seating arrangement, so that they can carry out so many activities related to research, like to have pre-thesis discussion seminar, and also to have research presentations by the faculty members. They can also have interaction with other research institutions anywhere in this world, just like we are having this webinar using LED monitor and Skype facility and all that. And also display all the latest faculty research publications. We bring out a publication called Research at Bits publication. We shifted them there. And we also decided that, okay, last 5 years research thesis also can be added here. And another interesting thing that we did was we identified the books related to current research that is happening at the BITS Pilani now, taking the help of the faculty members and the research scholars. And we shifted those books from the general collection to the research zone. And we also made the space flexible so that it could be used as a classroom or for serious work, and we provided a lot of computers there to do their literature review and things like that. And this is how the current research zone looks like, and this is what exactly is the research zone in the same space what you saw at the place where the shells had fallen. Now, one thing that I would like to share here is that that hall number 4, in which it was completely packed with bound volumes earlier, about you can say about 2 years back. Not even a single soul used to come to pick up even a single bound volume for their research work, because everyone has gone digital. Everyone wants to access everything online. So the usage of that particular hall was, I should put it at 0. Maybe during 1 year, once or twice, there used to be a request to, and we used to pull out some, bound volumes to take photocopies and things like that. So the impact of this is huge, and experience by the research scholars and footfalls have gone up actually as a result of that. Now, Another space that we created bang opposite this research zone is innovation zone. Okay. I mentioned to you earlier that we had an exclusive interactive session with faculty members where we sought their views on how we can foster innovation in the library, right? So this is the place that we created as an outcome of that particular discussion. And this innovation zone is primarily meant for the students with possible support and guidance from the faculty members to use it as a space for creative and innovative activities. And this space is expected to provide the opportunities and for the students to learn and develop new skills. And it fuels engagement and creativity and curiosity at the same time. We have made this as a student-driven space about which I'll tell you later, and it is supervised by the library staff. And we have provided in this particular space 4 dedicated computers which are loaded with design and simulation software packages. And these are the simulation and design software packages that we have added. And these are about just now only 14. Some of them are institute licensed, some of them are open source softwares, and some of them are paid software. And they perform different activities like they are used for different activities like mechanical design, electrical design, 3D modeling, and some of them like MATLAB for multipurpose and for video editing, animation, and IDE code editor, game engine, and slicer for 3D printer. So you can see the variety of software that the students are using for their innovative work in the library. All right. So though this space is a bit small, but it is quite appealing and welcoming and resourceful for the students. And this room is also available for online booking. And I hope without taking much time, I can take you through the statistics. Okay. Statistics, it is heavily used. The shifting is again, I have to log in again and again. So I will not tell you, but okay, very frankly, this is heavily booked. Okay. Another now. Okay. Okay, and as a part of this innovation zone, we also created yet another space called Makerspace. It is an integral part of the innovation zone. And this is a collaborative space where people work on innovation projects to churn out solutions to different problems. And it provides access to various resources which aid in design, prototyping, and realization of solutions. And this space provides access to resources like 3D printer, high performance computer, electrical and electronic devices, and IoTs and work benches it provides. The objective is to nurture ideas and give students community freedom to brainstorm, iterate, and innovate. Now, I mentioned about we have acquired a lot of electronic devices and hardware devices, IoTs and all that. We have made them available as an integral part of our OPAC. So there is a separate category that we have created as a part of the OPAC where we have said it is a makerspace. When they click there, they will get all IoTs, electronic devices. Just like they borrow books, they can borrow these devices. Okay. And I mentioned about the students team that is formed, an enthusiastic group of students. They have formed a club named Srishtara. Srishtara means the creator in Sanskrit. I mean, like this is the logo for the Srishtara team, and this Srishtara team is managed by the library staff. And this club is dedicated to build, maintain, and reinforce the innovation zone and makerspace in our library, which aims at catalyzing the creative activities of the campus. And we have our own, the vision statement, and we have a mission statement associated with innovation and makerspace. Now, online booking, how do they do it? I think I will take you through the booking of the online, how students actually go for online booking. See, okay, so I will log in as a student. Suppose I want to log in as a student. Okay, I have logged in here as a student, and this when student logs into the library portal, this is the login page for them. It allows them to book the spaces. It allows them to use the services and resources. Now I'm talking about booking the spaces through the library portal. I will show you just one example of booking, say, makerspace. When they want to use the makerspace, they need to necessarily book this particular space. Okay, now since this space has got both 3D printer and high performance computer, if they want to use, they click here, and if they want to book the high performance computer, they go here. And we have given a very detailed rules and regulations for them how to handle various things at in this particular space, and the various charges that they are supposed to pay for 3D printing, and then overhead charges for engaging the 3D printer and all that. Okay, suppose they want to use for 3D printing, they go for 3D printing, they put the date. Okay, so I will put it as maybe tomorrow I want to use it. I want to start it at 12 o'clock, and ending time I will put it as 1 o'clock. And I want to use this 3D printing for academic project. I will say the subject of activities, I will simply say for robotics or robot. I'll say robot car or something like that. Here I want to engage 5 of my friends in this work. And the 3D printing involves use of filament when they want to print some object. Okay, so some object I will show you. For example, they have printed. Can you see this? Sanjay, can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is an example of a 3D printing of BITS Pilani building itself. Okay, this is just an example. So when they print something, they use filament, and that it depends upon the weight of the filament. They have to pay. If it is weighing something like 50 grams of filament, they tick there. And if that printing takes say for about 7 hours to print, then they have to pay 105 rupees. So this is 100 and 105 they have to submit, and here they have to say I agree to pay the cost of the filament during the printing. Okay, so they need to tick this and they need to submit this. So what happens is, it's okay, I need to give the mobile number here. I have missed the mobile number. So I am putting my mobile number and I submit. So what happens is, whoever is booking, they immediately, instantaneously get a communication saying that thank you for sending your request. We will get back to you soon. That means it comes on the administrator's dashboard. Their request comes, and we approve their, their space booking, and then they are allowed to come to the library and use it. Okay, so this process I wanted to take it through to all of you how it happens. So it happens with most of the spaces wherever they have to do the booking. All right. So okay, so I will now continue with the next one. Recently, we have established an e-interview Carol. Okay, now maybe it is the same experience with the majority of you people, whoever is attending this webinar, that generally we observe that students are not able to find appropriate space if they have an interview scheduled on video call for their internship or placement or project or research related matters. They want to do some kind of video conferencing with somebody for these purposes, but they don't get appropriate or a suitable place where they can do this. So keeping this in mind, very recently, just 1 month before the lockdown, we created an isolated carrel with a computer equipped with a good quality webcam, microphone, and LAN connectivity. Okay, and this what you see here on the right hand side is a partition that is put for that. Please don't disturb because there's an interview going on inside. And and in this particular computer, we have installed the most video call software. And later on, the students themselves started installing many other software that are associated with video calling, whatever they find it useful. So it is all loaded with all those softwares now, and they can book this facility as per their convenience through the library portal, and it is not for personal use. And interestingly, this carol became so popular, we also publicize it very well in the campus. One other aspect of the library is we do a lot of marketing of anything that we do here. All right. So in the last 1 year before lockdown, okay, we received 60 bookings just in 1 month, and for various purposes: placement, project, thesis related interaction with some other organization, and many things. Very interesting. It was almost like back to back. So very successful project, and they really had a very good experience of using it. Now, another very interesting place that I would like to tell you is about Young Learners section in the library. Now, this section was established about 4 years ago for the children of faculty and staff members. As I had mentioned in the beginning itself, for the librarians, it is very, very difficult for us to convince the authorities. And of course, we also had a resistance. They said, this is a higher education institute, it is a university. How come you want to have a children's library? And it is not matching our goals. Then we had to really put up a very strong case to the authorities, saying that it is very important to inculcate the reading habits among the children in our campus because there are no good libraries. And also we told them, look, when children come to the library, because the age of the students is not, children are normally between 5 years and 15 years. So particularly those in the age group of 5 to 7, the parents would like to accompany them, and there's a big lot of them in the campus. So when faculty members accompany them, what happens is it is equal to we are trying to hit two birds with one stone. The faculty members started coming to the library along with their children, and while they use the children's library, they started using the library for various other their personal purposes, like for preparing for teaching or research or whatever. Now, ever since we started, now currently 144 faculty members are active users of this particular facility, and more than 200 children are effectively utilizing this children's library, resulting in a greater user experience. Now, I will move on to the next area where we could manage to change. I hope you will relate this in most of your libraries, wherever you still have these catalog cabinets, how we transformed the catalog cabinet area into something different in the library. So when these were kept, they were simply catching dust. Nobody knew how to use it and what it was, what kind of funny furniture it is for especially the younger generation. So we shifted these catalogs to one other place. Sanjay, the electricity is gone. I hope it will continue for complete duration. Currently, I'm sitting in the dark. Okay, so we converted this catalog cabinet area into a display area. So we put up a weekly display as almost like weekly displays of new arrivals on different subject areas. And then since it did not, people started coming and using it, but it did not result into, what should I say, the desired result. So we converted that further into a rezone. As you can see here now, that it is fully all the time, it is occupied by the students. Okay. Now, what did we do with the old catalogs? Many of you must be still having your library catalogs in your own respective libraries. The library catalog presently has gone digital, but that does not mean that all old teak wood card catalog cabinets have flung onto the heap of history. So we can creatively convert these catalog cabinets into useful modern library furnitures like ottomans, bench sofas, coffee tables, center tables, reading tables, cubicle stools, and shelves for children's library, and so on and so forth. Um, Sanjay, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, we are clearly able to hear you. Only thing is, yes, sir. We are able to hear
Sanjay,
you. We are able to hear you, sir.
Sanjay,
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Sanjay.
You're audible, sir. You're audible.
Hello. But Sanjay was not responding. Okay, because I could not hear the sound. Okay, because my sound system is off. Okay, I will continue. All right. Okay. Okay.
Are you able to hear now?
I'll continue. Okay. Okay, so we can convert these catalog cabinets into different furnitures. I'll tell you. After we shifted them from the lobby area, we took them to the first floor, and these catalog cabinets were shelved in one corner of the first floor. You can see here, and then we started dismantling them, and we started recycling them. You can see them in different stages of dismantling, and we converted them into cubicles and tables. The top of the table here that you see here was the top of the catalog cabinet itself. So now this will go through the polishing, and they will look very nice teak wood, furniture, and this is various stages. A nice cubicle again, and one taking into a shape of a sofa, and this is how it is transforming. And this is once they are done, actually we covered them with upholstery, like nice cloth and foam on the top, and converted them into cubicles and bench sofas. And you can see, you can put them in different ways you like. And so far this is finally finished for sofas in different ways. You can see here, and this is a bench sofa again, and this is a big sofa where there are two catalog cabinets below, and made it as one because of the lockdown. This is still to undergo that work and things like that. Now I will tell you another space that we worked on. It is BITS Pilani Heritage Gallery. This gallery is meant for showcasing how BITS Pilani has evolved right from its Pathashala days in 1901 to the present status of Institute of Eminence. Now, when I had joined this library about 6 years back, I could find a lot of old photographs, rare photographs in the library, which were lying in the carton boxes, catching dust, and when I looked at the photograph, they were really rare, very important, precious photographs, like because they were of all national leaders prior to independence, like Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, Vinoba Bhave, Rajendra Prasad, you name it, because all these people used to come to BITS Pilani because they had a very long, cherished relationship with Sri G.D. Birla. Okay, so we decided, these photographs needed to be chronologically arranged, revived, digitized, and reprinted and framed and displayed with a storyline covering all 4 campuses of BITS Pilani. So we created a gallery, and I can quickly run through the gallery, how it is looking. You can see here, they are all nicely framed, and this is a Pilani campus gallery. And the storyline that we put it up, which is inscribed on black acrylic sheet with white letters. And to tell you, this storyline is edited by the chief editor of Reader's Digest. Okay, we took it to that level to maintain the quality of the content of the BITS Heritage Gallery, because there were so many books which were talking about the story of the BITS Pilani. So we prepared that, and these are different views of the gallery, and you can see that here. And here, this is below the staircase. We prepared a nice shelf. The bound volumes that you see here are, the college magazines right from 1930s, and also various newsletters of that day's departments and things like that. And this is Goa campus, Hyderabad campus, and also Dubai campus. So it is really coming up very well. And this is the mezzanine floor of the library, where I have put one catalog cabinet which is polished and with a glass top, and on the top you will see a book, and this is accession number 1, that is first book ever purchased by BITS Pilani library, is also showcased. Okay, so this is still, there's a lot of work still to be done, and maybe in next few months this space will be inaugurated. So, and this will, I'm sure, will give a different experience to alumni and important visitors to the library, because we keep getting all important visitors here, as well as for students and authorities. And another thing that we must actually aim at providing to the students, if we intend to retain our users for a longer period of time in the library, where if users have to spend long time, it is important that they take study or work breaks and refocus themselves, refuel themselves, and we need to provide access to snacks and drinks if possible, so that they can afford to spend more time in the library. And now, many of you will question me: how can library have a tea, coffee vending machine and snack vending machine and things like that? It will invite insects, it will invite rodents and many things. So, but these are outsourced activities. These people who are managing these two counters are given a very strict guideline as to how to maintain the hygiene, how to clean the floor, how to make sure that the insects are not coming. And we have put up very prominent, distinct notices all over the library. This, this standee itself is next to that. And if any student is misbehaving or taking a cup and going elsewhere, they will be immediately fined 100 rupees and things like that. Okay. Now, going forward, we would like to come up with even a major and very ambitious new project that is called Ideation Zone and Multimedia Studio in the library. And we started working on it. And this Ideation Zone next to Innovation Zone, where students are encouraged to form creative ideas and work towards crystallization of these ideas through sketching, prototyping, brainstorming, brain writing, and using other ideation techniques. And the students can really undertake many design thinking projects here. And the aim is to achieve students' engagement in generating most practical and innovative ideas, which culminate into better design solutions and strategies to develop new projects. So the work is in progress. The picture will show you how it should ideally look like, and you will have a touch screen, big touch screen, and other facilities inside, including a multimedia studio. So one other important aspect I want to share with you is the user feedback, the kind of feedback that we get from the users as a result of these changes in the library in the last so many years, I mean like 3-4 years, I should say. This Mitesh says the services of e-interview Carol are at its best. It was a nice experience with it, with no problem at all. And this professor Trivedi from University of California, he said, "What an inspiring and beautiful and inviting place to visit. Words are limited in describing my feelings, but somehow, Satyam Shivam Sundaram keeps ringing my mind." So that's what he says in there. And another interesting feedback that we got from Sagar. He says, I will just read a little 1 or 2 lines here. He says, in BITS, you will find only 3 types of people during the exam. 1, people who study in their rooms. 2, people who study in computer centers. And 3, the people who study in the library. I always belong to the last category. The library has been the most evolving place in the campus. Every time I went to the library, I would find something new that was introduced, and he goes on narrating. And you can see one more feedback from Simon Toffel, who is a retired Australian cricket umpire. When he visited, he said BITS Pilani library is one of the highest quality. The environment and content, in terms of environment and content, I encourage everyone to make full use of the resource and opportunity. So like that. And Manal, he says, as any Bitsian would say the same, that the library is one place where each and every one of us has seen a positive change and new additions semester on semester, year on year, towards best of use to the students. So these remarks, these feedbacks are really, really encouraging. So I want to really conclude by saying that the concept of user experience is increasing in priority for academic libraries, and the authorities in academic libraries must play a more significant role in reorganizing library spaces that will be aligned with today's students learning different styles. And we must make sure that whenever we have engagement with or interaction with the users, please remember to involve the authorities, the top authorities in such discussions. Collaborative learning in libraries is very important because the best of learning actually happens when students are actively involved in a team project or research work, and this leads to a higher level of user experience of the libraries. Integration of technology, content, and collaborative environments benefits students and faculty and institutions, and it encourages encouragement of leadership at all levels. And of course, the user experience of physical spaces is absolutely important, as they view such facilities as crucial for their academic research and really project related activities. So we as librarians, friends, we must not leave any stone unturned to create greater user experiences in our libraries, to enhance the reputation of the library and stay relevant. And we must, raise the bar of our profession. It's all in our hands how we take it forward with, the current scenario with, high tech students around us and things like that. And last but not the least, I would like to quote Sam Dimas, who is a college librarian emeritus at Carleton College, USA. He says, in the recent years, we have reawakened to the fact that the libraries are fundamentally about people, how they learn, how they use information, and how they participate in the life of the user community. And as a result, we are beginning to design libraries that seek to restore parts of libraries' historic role as institution of learning, culture, and intellectual community. Thank you very much for your patience. I know that it went through a bit of technical hitch in between because the electricity actually went off. I was here for 15 minutes without any light. I was wondering whether you are all listening to me or it is gone. But my colleagues came and told me that the sound is going still. Okay, so thank you very much for your patience. Sorry if I have exceeded my time limit. I seek your pardon for the same. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I shall be more than happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I hope I'm audible now. I think I got a message initially when I was introducing that there was some echo. So sorry about that. I think my net went down. Suddenly the signal went down and I connected it to another network. So I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, you are.
There are a few questions, and as I was, going through the comments of people, so people have felt that this is a different kind of a topic that we have chosen, and they are happy to get the insights because that is relevant to them, their day-to-day functioning, and how they also can look at their libraries and improving the infrastructure there. So I will just take up some questions which have come. There are many questions, but in the interest of time, we'll go through a couple of those. One is how can user experience be enhanced in terms of digital world, considering limited resources available in the library?
How the user experience can be enhanced with?
In terms of digital world, considering limited resources available in the library.
Oh, digital experience. I wish I had more time actually, because I must tell you that the kind of platform that we have created to use digital content. We have created a very interactive library portal. The philosophy behind setting up that library portal was more or less like similar to Facebook kind of a thing, and it is not like one-way communication; it is two-way communication. Library users can always get back to us to make or on any account, like whether it is to do with recommending a book, or if they are facing any problem getting access to a particular database, or they want to make certain recommendations to the library, or they have read a book and they want to share their what they have read to the entire world. All this is happening dashboard to dashboard through the library portal. And in order to make our resources easily seen and accessible, we have created individual icons for every single thing, so that navigation of the library portal is so easy, whether it is to do with the library services or library resources or library spaces. And there is a active communication panel, which is an integral part of the library portal. And through that communication panel, they can actually interact with us on many accounts. So I wish I had shown you that, but because of lack of time, we are not. And we have also come up with a app, library app is also there in place, so that they can access the library content from anywhere, wherever they are. So they are carrying the library in their pockets.
Right, sir. I hope the people get the right message from this answer. The next one is also quite interesting because it's a very practical problem, sir. There is always a challenge with availability of space, especially from government office library, and I would say for many other libraries also. How do we manage in this scenario?
Okay, I'll tell you just about less than 6 months what we did. Okay, I will again quote the same example of hall number 4, where it was packed. It is a huge hall. Okay, the space is a problem with every single library in this world. So that hall number 4, which is packed with this thing, when we critically examine the usage, as I mentioned, the usage was zero. So we decided to withdraw 4,000 bound volumes just less than 6 months back. And these bound volumes were not really, hardcore scientific and technological journals. They were bound volumes of magazines. Okay, and these magazines were available even online now. So, but for some historical reasons, the library was even binding the bound volumes also to a greater extent. So, but we ruthlessly we decided to remove those bound volumes, 4,000. You can imagine that how much space it would have given us. And because of removal of those 4,000, only the next project we are able to undertake, that ideation zone. See, the thing is, we must look at the utility of the current space. If something that is, the space is there, but it is underutilized or zero utilization, those are the spaces that you should really focus on. I'm telling you as a matter of fact, because I have visited umpteen number of libraries in this country, and I have seen so many spaces which are dormant, which are not really used. They can really focus on such areas without disturbing much, and they need to look at the economics of it. How best I can do it in a, within the available resources and things. There is a way. I mean, there is a lot of innovative ways that one can really think, and they should think out of the box to do that actually, and it is easily possible.
Right, sir. We'll take two more questions in the interest of time. One is, what are the tools that you use to engage users currently who are not coming to library during this pandemic?
See, because of the COVID-19.
That's right.
No, actually, this period for last very close to 2 months has been very, very busy for the library team, I must say. We could undertake many activities online. First of all, in vast majority of the resources, we were able to make them available remotely to all our students wherever they are. And second major thing that we did was we implemented Shibboleth in collaboration with InflibNet InFed. So that was a very successful project, and through Shibboleth now they are able to access almost about 25, 26 online resources and so many COVID freely available resources, and so many other open source resources and all that. Of course, they were there, but the subscribed content we have made it available through them. That is one aspect, so that they don't miss the library digitally wherever they are. It is a seamless access and all that. Now, beyond that, if they are not finding the article even from these resources, we started getting so many requests, sir, I want this article, I want this book chapter and all that. So we had a lot of liaison with lot of publishers all over. And in the last about 2 months, I think we have been able to send more than 450 articles downloaded, and the book chapters and things like that. It is an ongoing thing, and currently we are also trying to set up altogether a new service called Teaching Aids and Research Aids Alert Service. I did not cover that because it was currently today out of the scope, and that is happening actually with collaboration with EBSCO only. Discovery tool that is almost in place, and this alert service will be hugely beneficial to all our users. We have communicated to all the faculty members. Now very soon, maybe from coming week, they will start receiving the alerts on their teaching as well as separately for their research related activities. Once it becomes a successful project, then we will escalate it to all the research scholars, things like that. Yes.
Right, sir. So we'll take the last question for the day today is what is your take on how libraries are responding to a global pandemic and what may be the strategies libraries are adopting? I'll repeat once again.
Yes.
What is your take on this question? How libraries are responding to a global pandemic and what may be the strategy libraries are adopting?
You are gone. You are gone. Current is gone. Electricity is gone here. Okay. You repeat that. The power has come.
Okay, sir. I will repeat it once more. So the question
Yes.
is, what is your take on how libraries are responding to a global pandemic and what may be the strategies libraries are adopting to overcome this challenge?
Yeah. I think by and large, I must put librarians as really, really proactive. They really want to serve the society in the best possible manner, because I have seen that as an examples with many libraries all over, and they have become very active even during this. Like the kind of webinars, for example, that are happening all over India is one classic examples, whether they are initiated by the librarians, whether they are initiated by the publishers. The webinars are really coming up like anything. This is one outcome, and every librarian is concerned about how can I really help my user wherever they are. So they are going out of their way to help them through some means to provide the necessary information, and even to support the research associated with the coronavirus. The research team working anywhere in this world. The Thankfully, many publishers have given almost all the resources associated with coronavirus research related literature, and we have made that literature also available as a integral part of the library portal, as an integral part of Shibboleth, and people are making use. I particularly got one major project on which one of our the alumni is currently working. They are coming out with certain major equipment, to help address this particular pandemic that is happening, and it's a major project for them. So they got in touch with us, sir, can you please help us in this regard? So we made a note of what exact areas he would like to cover and all that, and in liaison with the publisher, in liaison with other stakeholders, we were able to make available the kind of the exact resources that person was looking for, and we really helped him, though he was an alumni, not a registered user of the library, but since he was doing a good social work, so we gave him a complete platform to work on it. So this is just one tiny little example, but our my library colleagues all over may have done many wonderful, may have taken wonderful initiatives to address many things. And maybe I think soon after this COVID, there will be many seminars, conferences only associated with how they managed COVID-19 situation. That will be the key, the topic of the discussion, how they innovatively managed such situations. Yeah, so that is happening.
Right, sir. Thank you very much for your deep insights into this unique topic that we covered today. And I can relate to every screenshot that you're showing in terms of pictures because I've spent at least 3 to 4 hours in the library at different corners. And I've also kind of gone to the brainstorming room, your master space room. So those things are, you have to visit to believe those and see those. That experience is to be, you have to visit that place to see that. It was great to have you on our panel, sir, as a speaker today. Thank you very much. And we will do a couple of things which people are asking. One is they want PPT. So, with your permission, we would like to take your permission to share the PPT if it is allowed. Second is the
Yeah.
questionnaire that you showed. And certificates, of course, we'll give to people within 24 hours of this session getting over. And
Okay.
also, there are some unanswered questions, sir, because they were a little lengthy in nature, when you would have answered those. So, we will compile those and share it with you. And also, if you could display your email ID on the screen, people can write to you directly as well if there are questions or any other suggestions that they want related to this topic that you covered today.
Okay. So there we go. Can you see this? I'll increase it. Can you all see this? Sorry. I thought I have put my email ID. I thought I put my email ID. Nevertheless, I will certainly add it now. G small.
Yeah, that should be okay.
Yeah, this G is small. Yeah.
If you can increase that font a bit, people will be able to easily note that.
Okay.
And in fact, they can go to the BITS Bilani library also and get your coordinates from there also.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you very much, sir.
Once again, my apologies to everybody because there was a bit of power failure here 2-3 times. It happened, so I was wondering whether my sound is reaching you or not. So there was a
No, in
technical.
fact, it was pretty smooth. I think that did not really affect the flow of the presentation in any manner. And we look forward to feedback from our attendees today, and that will help us to improvise and improve or take into suggestions for better webinars next time or topics that you can suggest. That will be also very helpful. So thank you once again every day, and keep safe, keep healthy, and have a good day. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.